Hello and good afternoon, everyone. It is November 23rd, 2022. Happy Doctor Who Day, and also happy Thanksgiving Eve to all those in the United States and around the world who celebrate Thanksgiving. Today is a very special day, of course. Today is Doctor Who Day. It is the 59th anniversary of the airing of Doctor Who on the BBC. And of course, today begins a period where I will be starting a new series here. As you saw when you click on this, this is the Who in Review series that I will be starting, where we will be journeying through all the modern era of Doctor Who, starting with the Ninth Doctor, the first series, which is the first 13 episodes of the 2005 relaunch or quote unquote reboot of Doctor Who, working our way through all of the modern series up until the end of the Jodie Whittaker uh, uh, era, and as we work to the 60th anniversary specials, where the show will be debuting on Disney Plus, with David Tennant back for three specials as the 14th Doctor. So again, thank you very much. I'm of course your host RJ. I hope that you thoroughly enjoyed this review and breakdown as we kind of do like this retrospective series in a way. Um, so it should be a lot of fun. Obviously, I'm very passionate about Doctor Who. Um, so I think kind of starting off, I should sort of explain where I come into this, where I am as a Doctor Who fan. I'm definitely what you would call a casual Doctor Who fan. I'm not exactly a hardcore fan. I haven't watched every single of the original series. I've read up on history. I've watched some clips. I know a little bit about the previous Doctor Who, but my introduction to Doctor Who is through the 2005 relaunch by Russell T Davies and company, with the Christopher Eccleston era as the Ninth Doctor. That was my first Doctor. That's my introduction, as it is for many other people. The goal of the 2005 relaunch was to reinvigorate the property and get a lot of people back into it. And of course, for people in my generation, that's definitely how it worked, um, how it went for us. Um, so again, we're kind of just going to go into a deep dive into that. But first off, thank you over on Max's MME channel. Thank you, Ryan Cinematics, becoming a member. Thank you so much. We greatly appreciate that. So yeah, kind of going over my history. Like I said, I got introduced to Doctor Who when it was on Netflix for a time, being a few years back, and I watched the original Ninth Doctor series. Now I'm working through the David Tennant era on HBO Max, so look out for that part of the Who and Review series coming up soon. And yeah, like I said, for me, Doctor Who is definitely a series that is so largely influential in terms of the science fiction genre. It's so influential in terms of, so many actors that we see actually made appearances in Doctor Who as well and got their start in Doctor Who. So it's really a very influential series. It's not as popular in the United States as it used to be. It's reached its maximum popularity, of course, with the 10th Doctor, which we'll talk about. But it's kind of on the rise again. It's still one of the most biggest brands and properties in the world. I mean, it has such a large cultural impact, it's hard to even really get into. So I want to kind of go over a little bit of the story behind the 2005 relaunch. So the 2005 relaunch kind of got started because the producers of the BBC kind of saw that there was interest in science fiction again. Because after the Seventh Doctor's era came and went, and the series kind of died down with a whimper, and the BBC was not interested in science fiction shows or really like continuing Doctor Who. Like a lot of the people running the BBC at the time kind of saw it as a nuisance. They didn't really want to invest the money into it or continue it, which kind of explains why during the sixth and seventh Doctor's reign the quality dipped a little bit. Well, it picked up with the seventh Doctor, of course. And they tried with the eighth Doctor with the Paul McGann TV movie that was co-produced by Fox and aired on the Fox network to try and reinvigorate the show. But sadly, the ratings for that were not strong enough to justify continuation, so Doctor Who kind of just died out for a few years, just kind of went on hiatus. It wasn't until the BBC and those in charge who took over and kind of like looked at things, were like, hey, shows like Star Trek The Next Generation, shows like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, science fiction genre shows on that we're bringing in from America are doing super well. We have our own genre show. that was extremely popular, one of the biggest cultural phenomenons in our country. Why don't we try and relaunch it again? Do a new fresh spin on it, get a new creative team behind it, and really try and reinvigorate this property. So they brought on Russell T Davies, who wrote actually a bunch of Doctor Who novels at the time, to kind of come in and work on this. And that's sort of the short and sweet version of it behind the 2005 relaunch. Again, kind of trying to reinvigorate the property, reinvigorate everything, you know. So let's have a couple popping in. Kavari's here, hello. David Riley's here, hello. So Doctor Who will be on Disney Plus next year, around November 2023 is when the specials will air. So assuming end of next year, this time next year is when the show will be on Disney Plus. I do need to check out Wednesday as well, Kavari. Thank you for reminding me. So obviously, they cast Christopher Eccleston, who was somewhat of a well-known actor at the time. Definitely more of a character actor. For you Americans, you probably remember Christopher Eccleston, who played the Malekith, the Dark Elf, in Thor: The Dark World, where he sadly got wasted. He also played one of the villains in the G.I. Joe, the first G.I. Joe movie too, with Channing Tatum. So he's a very incredible actor. I love Christopher Eccleston. Billy Piper was cast as the companion. Billy Piper being kind of a pop star, I believe it was. He was a singer, who, that's where she kind of got her claim to fame. She was a singer, kind of new to the world of acting at the time, if I remember correctly. She was cast as Rose, the companion. So, kind of going over the first series. So, the first series, the Ninth Doctor's reign, it's actually quite short. It's actually only 13 episodes. It's only lasted about a year, which is incredibly, incredibly short. Crystal Eccleston left the show at the end. So if you don't know, for those who are not familiar with Doctor Who, typically when an actor leaves Doctor Who, they write a finale around that and end that that actor's reign with a regeneration. So the Doctor continues, but it's just played by a different actor. It's kind of how they got around having to replace actors that would have to kill off the character and like that. That's sort of how that worked. So Christopher Eccleston's era kind of came to an end pretty abruptly, right when the show first started airing on the BBC. The first couple episodes, it was announced that he was leaving. It kind of leaked out there by the press, much to Christopher Eccleston's annoyance, because obviously you don't want your entire era to be marked by, oh my god, he's leaving, what? Which is a shame, because Christopher Eccleston is a phenomenal Doctor. Even though he only got to play the role for 13 episodes, he's still one of the best. I mean, again, he was my first Doctor, so he's always going to be special for that. Everyone has their first Doctor, and they hold that first Doctor that they ever watched with a special place in their heart. And I'm always going to hold Christopher Eccleston in a special place in my heart because of that. So yeah, the reason he left is still unknown to this day. We don't really know why he left, and I don't want to speculate on it. However, the only information I could really find about why he left, supposedly, is that he had, the shoot of this project of the relaunch was pretty spicy, because a lot of it was very VFX heavy, and we had like a director in there who kind of was unfamiliar with VFX work, so it made the shoots for this first series very tumultuous, very difficult. You couldn't tell in the product because the product was fine, it was outstanding, but the shoots were difficult because of the level of practical effects and computer effects and all that. It was just a very difficult shoot, and because of that, it wasn't exactly a very fun environment to film. And supposedly some of the production crew kind of got potentially mistreated. Not by Russell T Davies. I'm just talking about like the directors they brought in to film these episodes, to direct the actual episodes. There's one director who's never worked again in Doctor Who, as far as I'm aware. So Christopher Eccleston kind of took issue with the way that the production crew was treated, so that may have been the reason why he decided to leave, just because of the difficulties of that. But he left on his own terms, and we got a fantastic season anyway. And then, of course, his regeneration into David Tennant, beloved actor David Tennant, led to quite possibly the biggest, most popular period of the show ever, which we'll discuss next time when we get into the David Tennant era of Doctor Who. But we're not there yet. So, and thank you, Far. I appreciate that. I know not Doctor Who isn't for everybody. I kind of have a very limited audience here when it comes to this, but it's something I want to talk about, and I'm hopeful that in the future, as we kind of expand our discussions about Doctor Who, hopefully more people can get on board. And it is readily available to watch on HBO Max if you live in the United States. And I encourage all of you to give it a try. I think a lot of people would enjoy Doctor Who if they just gave it a chance. Um, that's my perspective on it, at least. But kind of to continue here, the first episode of the relaunch is entitled Rose. And Russell T Davies really tried to take things back to basics of Doctor Who. The old phrase, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Kind of really going back to the core of what Doctor Who is. So you kind of open up the first episode, Rose, where it's just like you see average life for our companion character. You see what life on Earth is like, the mundane life of everything. As things slowly become more fantastical with like this whole plot of like the clay um, dummies and everything kind of coming around. And again, it keeps things grounded, but it also makes the fantastical more apparent, in terms of an introduction episode, it's about as perfect as you can get it. It's not one of the best episodes of that series, but for an introduction episode, I think Rose does its job very well in introducing the companion, reintroducing the Doctor. You kind of get a feel for him as a character a little bit. You kind of get the sense that there's like more mystery going on with him and like what he's been through. Because the Ninth Doctor, the way Christopher Eccleston plays him, you can tell there's been a history. That something happened to this guy. There's like there's a bit of a hint of darkness like lying underneath there. Like he's dealing with some stuff, Um, which makes his performance all the more compelling because he's been through stuff. The second episode is of the first, so that's the first episode, right? So Rose and the Doctor have this short little adventure. Rose decides to travel with the Doctor. Great pilot episode, great introduction to both characters. Kind of get to see Jackie, Rose's mom. You get Mickey, her boyfriend. You kind of get a sense of the more familial dynamics, which is important for Rose's character as it goes on. In the second episode, we kind of go into the future, where we get introduced to, I believe, what was it? God, what was her name? Catherine, I think her name was, like the face lady, she's a fun little villain, which is kind of cool. Get introduced to the face of Bo, who becomes a compelling character later. So the second episode introduces more of the fantastical elements. The first episode, we're grounded on Earth. Now we go into the future. Right, we go into the future. We kind of see what that's all about. Because basically, there's two types of Doctor Who episodes, really, or no, more like three types. So you have your Earth ground based episodes, where something happens on Earth, typically in a UK setting during the present day, or sometimes you'll have a situation where it's like pseudo history, where we go into a period of time like the 1800s, like Sir William Shakespeare, or we go into Cardiff, or we go into we meet Charles Dickens and stuff, which gets you next. Those kind of episodes, and then you have like your more futuristic episodes. You go into like an off distant, either the far, far future or like a far distant planet, more alien stuff. So those are like your three types of episodes typically. Mixing the formula here and there, of course. And hello, Spiritual Man. I appreciate your reference. Yes, the gift of air. There's some tree people in the second episode, which is kind of funny. Rose, as far as we know, is not coming back. She did come back for the 50th anniversary special. I'm not sure if she'll come back again, but you never know. Episode 3, again, ties in that pseudo history episode. It's a Charles Dickens episode where they go and meet to Cardiff and meet Charles Dickens. Kind of dealing like that pseudo history, kind of reintroducing that formula into it. Then we go into the first mini arc of the season, which is the London invasion by the Slitheen. And this is like I don't know about like listen, the whole 2 episode Slitheen thing with like aliens in London in World War III. Kind of mixed. Some people like it, some people don't. There's a lot of like fart humor with the Slitheen that's kind of like very hit or miss for me personally. Um, Although you do get like the introduction of the Margaret character, who becomes important later on towards the end of the first season, and you also meet Harriet Jones, who's a fun character who becomes the Prime Minister on the next season. And then you kind of get more character development for Mickey as well in these 2 episodes, and more character development for Rose and her family. Kind of get a better sense of the family dynamic. But I don't know. The Slovenian were kind of hit or miss for me. It's not the best 2 episode arc, in my opinion. But afterward, we get one of the best episodes ever of Doctor Who, in my opinion. An amazing episode, and that's the episode Dalek. So, the Daleks are the most iconic villains in Doctor Who. This episode was the introduction or reintroduction of the Daleks into the modern series. It's absolutely perfect. It's nail biting. It's thrilling. It really deals a lot with the Doctor's trauma from the Time War as the sole survivor of his people after the events of the Time War. You get a sense about who the Daleks are. The Dalek is terrifying in this episode. You really get a sense of the terror, just how bad. If one Dalek can cause the devastation this one did, imagine like millions of them, you know? It's just a great episode. It's a great, great, great episode. Dalek, one of the highlights of the season for sure. Then we go into episode 7, which has actually Simon Pegg as the villain of this episode. Simon Pegg cameos in this. It's a fun little episode. We kind of get introduction to the far future being controlled by like this information wave kind of thing. Um, that's a lot of fun. Father's Day, which is episode 8, which is a highlight because we get more character development for Rose. We learn about her dad who passed away in a hit and run accident when she was a baby during a wedding. So we kind of get like that dynamic of like Rose going back in time and saving her dad and the consequences of that. And that's a lot of fun. Afterward from that, we also get into one of the best episodes. Yes, another 2-parter here. Excuse me, I'll take a water break. We get another 2-parter here, written by Stephen Moffat, who would go on to run the show after Russell T Davies left after the David Tennant era. The Empty Child and the Doctor Dances. Again, one of the best episodes of Doctor Who, one of the best stories, 2-part stories, and it's like one of the best episodes from this first series, where we go back in time to World War II during the Blitz, and like there's like this mysterious mass child who's like kind of like a zombie kind of thing who just keeps saying "mummy, mummy." It's really creepy and awesome. We get introduced to Captain Jack Harkness, played by John Barrowman, who you might recognize from Arrow. Like I said, a lot of actors in Doctor Who go on to other stuff that you're all familiar with. But played by John Barrowman, who's a great suave kind of rogue character, definitely like your Han Solo-esque type character role. He's a lot of fun. And again, it's just a great little story. One of the best lines of the whole thing, where the Doctor figures out what's happening with the nano genes and says, just this once, everybody lives. It's a beautiful moment captured by Christopher Eccleston. Great performance in this episode. Then we kind of get into like the end of this. Like I said, we go to Boomtown, which again, that's more of a episode where we kind of what was it? Boomtown's. We go back to Margaret Blaine's character, kind of have like this compelling discussion about whether the Doctor has the right to like send someone back to die, to be executed for their crimes, which is very compelling. And then that's the last 2 episodes, which is the culmination of the story arc of the Bad Wolf storyline, where throughout we kind of saw these texts of Bad Wolf everywhere and what that was all about. And then we get the Parting of the Ways, which is an excellent season finale where everything comes to a head. Can the heroes escape? And we kind of like see like the culmination of like Rose's character up until this point, where she really shows some agency, takes control and saves the day. But the Doctor, she's gonna die, and the Doctor kisses her. As that build up for their romantic tension throughout the season. Kisses her to absorb all of the energy from the TARDIS, and sacrifices himself to save Rose. And it's one of the best regeneration scenes. So many videos that you can watch that explain why it was just so fantastic. And then we get the regeneration of Christopher Eccleston into David Tennant, and that is the first series of Doctor Who. Like I said, it's only 13 episodes, but again, the standout episodes for me are, of course, Rose, Dalek, and the last 2. Rose, Dalek, The Empty Child, The Doctor Dances, and the last 2 episodes. I mean, for the majority of the season, it's absolutely outstanding. It's a good foundational first season. Again, I wish Christopher Eccleston could have stayed and played the Doctor for even longer, but his run is fantastic. The episodes he are in, he's a great Doctor. Great introduction to Rose and her family and those characters. And again, it's a great setup and lead in for the David Tennant era, where they take the ball. They take the ball that was thrown to David Tennant, Russell T Davies, and they just run with that. So when we get to the David Tennant era, we're gonna have a lot more to discuss because that's like 3 series versus just the one. But again, the Ninth Doctor's era, again, for this relaunch, it's a great introduction to the world of Doctor Who. It does a great job of being a fresh start for anyone trying to jump on. And again, I truly, again, my heart is with the Ninth Doctor in this first series because this is like my first Doctor Who story. So they have a special place in my heart, and I remember them fondly. And again, that's kind of where we're at. If I were like to review this, I would probably give the first series of Doctor Who 2005 like an 8 out of 10. Close to like an 8.5, but again, it's more so there's like the Selene arc is not my favorite, and there's like a couple episodes that aren't as strong, but stuff that's really good in this first series is really, really damn good, and it's worth a watch for sure. It's a great introduction for any new fan looking into Doctor Who, and I can't recommend it enough. So that is that. That is the first part in Who in Review. Thank you guys so much for watching. Again, next time we will be talking about the David Tennant era, which encompasses 3 series 2, 3, and 4, if I remember correctly. I have to go back and look. But it's a longer reign. David Tennant played the Doctor for, I think, like, 5 years? I think 5 years. Versus Christopher Eccleston's 1 year. So we're going to have a lot more to talk about with the David Tennant era. It's the most popular. It's going to be a fun discussion. So, again, happy Doctor Who Day to everyone. Thank you guys so much for watching. And Alonzi.